EFF Leader Julius Malema says what happened in Sharpeville was not a massacre but a declaration of war by the apartheid regime. The EFF held a Sharpeville Massacre Commemoration today at Dlomo Dam in Sharpeville in the Vaal to honor the victims of 1960 who stood against the past laws and colonial rule. He says the human rights of South Africans have not yet changed even today. He also emphasized that it was Nelson Mandela's dream that South Africa should be equal.
It was on this day that thousands of black South Africans took to the streets in defiance of the oppressive past laws imposed by the apartheid government. These laws were not just pieces of paper. They were chains that bound our people to poverty, oppression, and the state-sanctioned violence. Led by the PAC, our people courageously stood against injustice, demanding an end to the past law that restricted their movement in their own land. But instead of being met with dialogue, they were met with bullets. Sharpeville was not just a massacre. It was a declaration of war by the apartheid regime against the black majority. It was a moment that exposed the true brutality of white minority rule to the entire world. The cowardice of the apartheid regime meant that unarmed and peaceful Africans were shot in the back as they tried to flee, their bodies riddled with bullets, their dreams cut short by a government that saw black lives as disposable. The passbook, known as the Dompas, was the physical embodiment of apartheid brutality and inhumanity. It was a document of oppression designed to control and dehumanize black people in their own land. This small book dictated where a black person could live, where they could work, and even when they could move. It was not just a piece of paper. It was a weapon of humiliation, a daily reminder that in the eyes of the white supremacist state, black people were not human beings, but subject to be controlled, to be policed, restricted, and punished at will. It was the tool that kept our people in township with no running water or electricity, while white suburbs flourished with stolen wealth. Today, white supremacists do not need a Dompas to undermine our human rights, because even after 30 years of democracy, Africans remain in poverty, living in shacks without water, electricity, or dignity. We are told to move on from the crimes of apartheid, yet the reality of apartheid remains the same, because a white life in this country is worth more than black life. The worth of a white life on South Africa means so much that when there is a death of a white person due to crime that affects us all, it is called a white genocide, because whenever a white person dies, the whole world must pay attention. Fellow fighters, we must refuse the idea that a black life is so cheap that even our history of sacrifice and resistance can be changed to massage the conscience of our oppressors. Our people were massacred by apartheid regime today. The human rights of Africans have not changed ever since those Africans were killed here in Sharpeville in 1960. Our lives remain cheap, our dignity remains undermined, and we are still disrespected by white supremacists that insist that white people must be comfortable at the expense of black people.